Hi, I'm John King. This video is part of my culture of curiosity, exploring observation on the farm. Observation is one of the most important skills for a farmer, and knowing what to look for is key for success. In New Zealand, one of the most instrumental people in helping farmers observe their outcomes of their management was Peter Sears. And in fact, he was just doing this by simply relating livestock and environmental problems to changes in pasture composition and soil fertility. And what I'm going to look at is some of his ideas and see if you can see anything here that relates to issues you find on your property. The following is a four-phase adaptation of relationships Sears observed when farmers developed virgin land into high productive pasture. The height of the green signifies annual pasture production, and the colours the grass-clover ratio, whereas the brown signifies changes in soil depth and fertility. Starting with scrub and low soil fertility. Okay, so brown top and danthonias are the most common grasses in these landscapes, as the soils are very thin. Pasture potential is huge, and why farmers engage in activities such as drainage, fertiliser, weed and pest control, and putting in legumes. And this is primarily achieved through turning over the soil by cropping. Animal health issues are relatively few due to low livestock numbers at this phase. So the next phase, clovers are really starting to stimulate pasture production along with manure, because for soil organic matter to increase, stocking rate must increase to pump more carbon into the soil. As a result, brown top gives away to other grasses, and the clovers are driving the fertility. During this phase, the lifting of earthworm numbers is paramount, because that improves soil aeration and drainage and hastens the development of productive pasture by preventing soils compacting and preventing pastures reverting back to rushes and weeds. The nutritional imbalances created by the rush of nitrogen makes applying or supplying minerals necessary to fortify soil and pasture. As a result, livestock health is troublesome. There's sleepy sickness due to lack of energy. There are trace element mineral deficiencies, along with bloat and feed favours that emerge as clovers begin to dominate the sward, hence the need for other minerals. Sears was adamant, though, for farmers to excel at this phase required focusing on clover development by sowing lighter rates of grass seed, using heavy mineral fertiliser applications, but not nitrogen, and early spring grazing management. So here we see a steady lift in soil fertility and structure through adding nutrients, plant and animal waste, and of course the activity of earthworms. White clover and ryegrass replace other species, and as soil fertility increases and actually dominate the sward. Sears emphasises grazing management must change to minimise excessive summer grazing, and that's primarily from the practice of set stocking, and lost pasture quality from autumn through to winter months from the deferred grazing, all of which affect pasture composition. What's interesting is that this phase is characterised by very few livestock health problems. However, it doesn't stay that way. Upon reaching over 90% of the potential production, the final phase is characterised by steady, high productivity, ryegrass dominant pastures, heavy stocking rates, and high soil fertility, although it's confined to the upper layer of the soil. However, dominance of ryegrass limits productivity due to low summer growth and palatability, and rapid flushes of growth in the spring and the autumn, and it's these flushes of growth that are responsible for many livestock health issues due to high nitrates weakening immune systems. This situation is not uncommon and causes high animal health costs for farmers. Sears' solution was to simply crop areas of high fertility to soak up the excess nitrogen by growing and harvesting lots of biomass to be deposited elsewhere, preferably as a supplementary feed on areas at phase 2. Removing biomass resulted in lower soil nitrogen, and that allowed clovers to re-establish. So what are some of the key learnings here? Higher stocking rate increased soil fertility until a monoculture of ryegrass and pasture overloaded with nitrogen created a cascade of animal health problems which lifts costs. This coincided with lower clover and earthworms and increased weed problems necessitating other expensive interventions. Furthermore, as stock classes decreased, the need for mechanical and chemical interventions increased, which also lifted costs. So at the pointy end of this arrow, it's the perpetual treating of symptoms with technologies and not addressing the root causes of problems, which lifts farm costs. This is where farm production produces more income for the farmer, but they keep less of it. What did Sears say? Well, Sears' focus was primarily on the grazing management, and as you can see from here, there's a whole range of things that he believed grazing management was responsible for. And that included the use of multiple classes of livestock to create more flexibility. There's a couple of other things here too. There's this whole issue around earthworms, okay, and the numbers I've got there are from more recent research. And of course, the big thing that Sears was about was the result of, of the outcome of Clovers. Sears' earlier work showed that Clovers animal manure could account for 99% of pasture production without nitrogen fertilizer. In other words, this was New Zealand farmers' unfair advantage. I'm John King, and if this or any of my other videos give you food for thought, give me a call.